All right, welcome in. A little late today on the Daily Fix. Your boy had to get pretty. As you can see, that haircut. I mean, this blonde tips are really working right now. Once we got all of it out, now these blonde tips, this is a look, sir. I mean, I might have to run with it. I might have to. I might have to.
That's like I don't know what that's a reference to, but
Did
okay.
you get that? Did you get it then
Yeah,
when I
okay,
said
that
it? I
makes
might
sense.
have to run with it. This is the Daily Fix presented by Foolish Club Media. Right there in that little box, you know who it is. That is Steve Serta,
Hi.
right where he rightfully belongs. I'm your host, Ron Hughley. Listen, we appreciate you, however you're taking us in. One thing we do need you to do, though, please head to our YouTube channel, Foolish Club Media. Like and subscribe. Please like and subscribe at our YouTube channel as we try to grow this thing. Remember, if you do not do so, you're preventing my 3 children from eating. Not going to hold you long. It looks like we just lost Kurt. Explain that more and more. I mean, in like 5 weeks, we just lost Kirk Cousins. Good night. We close the door on the Clyde Edwards-Helaire era. We'll discuss a little bit of that. I do want to hit this from the front seven. Before that, sort of to the people who may be just joining us, it looks like Patrick Mahomes did speak, and it sounds like positive news coming from Mahomes 2 days after the injury, right?
Yeah, he spoke with reporters, I don't know, probably about 15 or 20 minutes ago, and it all seems pretty positive. Says he planned on playing on Saturday, but he won't push the issue if he feels he can't play the way that he wants. Says I'm not going to put the football team in a bad position, but he is expected to be at practice today and have some kind of role. So we'll kind of see what he does and monitor this as the week goes on.
Yeah, I would say this is a sign that it looks like he's leaning towards playing. He also said that this is bouncing back much better than it did when he hurt himself against the Jags a couple of years ago. Very similar injury there, bent back the same way, said it's bouncing back with that. All right, that's the latest with Mahomes. I do want to start here. Give me my 2 minutes, Steve. A front seven. Damn it, that's how it's supposed to look like. All right, that's how it's supposed to look like. Serta, we have been, I mean, especially coming out of the Buffalo game and the Carolina game, we've really been talking about, yo, man, one of the big reasons why it looks so rough on the back end with guys like Johnson and guys like Shamari Connor and everybody, whoever else, Joshua Williams, is they ain't getting no pressure. They're not getting no pressure. They're not getting any sacks. They were lower third in the league in pressure rate, lower, hell, I think second to last in total sacks. That has started to change, and it's gotten better and better since the Raiders game. The Raiders game, we started to see more pressure. Chris Jones had a couple of sacks. George got home. We saw it a little bit more with the Chargers as well as they put hits on Herbert. And then it culminated to yesterday or the other day's game against the Browns, where they got pressure all day long. And some of their pressure caused some of the turnovers that they had. And that's how it's supposed to look, Serta. Here's the thing. You have one big force in Chris Jones that attracts a ton of attention, and teams are saying, I got to stop him, got to stop him. And he is still very, very active and still getting pressure, even though he didn't get a sack. But what happens is you got Chris Jones that people are scared of and they're putting extra attention to, and then you get other guys going one-on-one. And the Chiefs haven't been able to get home, whether it's with blitzing linebackers or the other guys in the down four. They've started to do that. George Karlaftis is starting to get on a roll. He had another couple of sacks and other pressures and hits. Charles Omenihu got back there. Tayshawn Wharton now has had a sack in multiple games. He's getting pressure. These guys are now starting to beat one-on-ones. And those some decent, it's not trash offensive line from the Browns. That's been the big change. That's how it's supposed to look. Everyone looks at the presence of Chris Jones, and Chris Jones still gets pressure anyhow, but then it allows everybody to get one-on-ones. Hell, Nick Bolton got a screen or on a blitz. He was able to pick up a half a sack with somebody. That's how it's supposed to look.
Yeah, I mean, this was now, and I mentioned this before the game, like The Browns' offensive line's not particularly good, so I don't want to overreact to this performance. But the difference here being the last couple of weeks is Charles Omenihu. Like, Charles Omenihu has really hit the ground running for the Chiefs, and he looks good since his return. And he is adding an extra element to this thing where Chris Jones was winning all day against the Browns, and it was freeing up everybody else. Turk Wharton, George Karlaftis, Charles Omenihu, FAU had an impact in this one. Like, this is what it's supposed to look like when they're able to rotate guys in and out, when Chris Jones is supposed to win no matter how many guys they're trying to shut him down with. And then the other guys are going to wind up eating a little bit because of all the attention that Chris Jones draws. And then occasionally Chris Jones is going to just be Chris Jones and dominate no matter who he's going against.
Yeah, they had 5 sacks, none of them by Chris Jones, but he, as you said, was winning all day. See, I think Charles is rolling. For me, the change has been George. George has been getting home in this stretch of games. I think George has a sack in all of these games since the Raider game. So I think that's been a big key. All right. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, former first-round pick with the Chiefs. They move on from Clyde. And look, man, it was a lot that happened. There were some good moments. I think I would say, would this be fair, sort of, mostly in terms of on the field, you would look at disappointment would be the word in what you thought you would get from Clyde?
Sure, but I think it's also like he had injuries early in his career that I think helped lead to him never really being what we thought he was going to be when he was drafted by the Chiefs.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And obviously we are hoping that he is good. He worked through the mental health situation that he had that kept him off the field early or off the roster early. And now they're moving on from him. I just want to say, as you said, there's some injuries, sure, but I don't think it was just that sort of. This is one that you could have told me the day they drafted him that this was going to work. Like that this was not going to work. I am legit surprised that it didn't work. Now, I thought it was a luxury pick, and I thought that the Chiefs could have gotten something like this later in the draft, right? We've seen them historically in the Andy Reid era, like their running backs. Isaiah Pacheco, they got in the 7th round. Kareem Hunt, oddly enough, they're both on the team still. Kareem Hunt, they got in the 3rd round. Like, for them to go and make this, and you saw the skill set when he was drafted. You saw him at LSU with Burrow that year. You thought, oh, my God, he can run it. He's tough to get down. He can catch out of the backfield. This looks like Brian Westbrook, who he had in Philly, and he was nothing like that. And I think it was more than just injuries. I am still surprised that this did not work with Clyde. I thought at the very least, maybe it's a pick we'd be looking at like, damn, maybe they could have got a tackle. Maybe they could have gotten another more premium position, but it still was a productive position. I mean, Pacheco has blown him out of the water. Hell, you could argue Kareem Hunt's been better.
And, in that particular draft, it was like the Chiefs just needed another running back because this offense can't be stopped by anyone.
Yeah, it was luxury.
It felt like it was a home run coming off of, Clyde being a part of one of the greatest college teams that we've ever seen. And it just never really worked out. I think some of it has to do with his size too. Like, he was such an excellent pass catching back in college, and that never manifested in the NFL. The Chiefs didn't trust him on passing downs whatsoever. Like, he wasn't a good enough pass blocker at this level to translate the way that we all thought he was going to.
He just, like you said, size and everything. He looked slow at the NFL level. It just didn't look like it was anything that we saw at LSU. But Clyde, you got, how many rings did Clyde get? 2. Good for you, Clyde. Got a couple of rings in there, and maybe you get a 3rd one this year. So good night, Clyde. Hopefully the rest of it goes. You catch on somewhere. All right, finally, did we lose Kirk Cousins officially last night? I mean, this is getting bad, man. Kirk Cousins, it's reminded me of when old Father Time just reached up and grabbed Peyton Manning out of nowhere. like it wasn't a slow grab. It was a yank. Give me that arm. No more. No more. Fly balls on out routes. And Peyton went from 1 year looking like the MVP to the next year. Brock Osweiler was probably a better option than he was because he was throwing fly balls and he was looking like Chad Pennington. That's where Kirk Cousins is living. Serta, last night in their win against the Raiders, Kirk went 11 for 17 for 112 yards, a touchdown and a pick. That's his first touchdown in 5 weeks. Serta, in the last 5 weeks, I'm not a stat person, but this is rough. In the last 5 weeks, Serta, Kirk Cousins has 1 touchdown pass that happened yesterday and 9 interceptions. 1 against 9 in the last 5 weeks is what Kirk Cousins is bringing to the table. They drafted Michael Penix Jr., which I'm sure they're happy, but they've also wasted all that money on Kirk Cousins, who I know he had an Achilles issue, but it looks like it is over and over quick. Just last year, Kirk looked like, a top 12, top 10 quarterback, to be honest with you, in Minnesota. And it is, in the last, and hell, even to start this year, it wasn't this bad. In the last 5 weeks, he's thrown 9 interceptions to 1 touchdown. That is just insane. I think we are seeing the end. And I love Kirk. All right, after watching him on that quarterback show and how nice he was and weird it was his family and how much Target shopping they do, I like Kirk. My wife likes Kirk, but it is over. It looks like Peyton Manning just snatched it from his ass.
I think Peyton's a good one. It also kind of reminds me of like Matt Ryan, where it was like Matt Ryan that final year in Atlanta, and then he went to the Colts, and a lot of people tried to talk themselves into like, no, the Falcons were just a disaster last year, and then Matt Ryan that year with the Colts was just washed up, and you were like, oh, he was washed last season. The Colts shouldn't have done this. And Kirk Cousins can't move anymore. For a quarterback that was never that mobile to begin with, he simply can't move anymore, to the point where the Falcons are scared to even drop back and throw the ball because he just doesn't have velocity on his throws anymore. The fact that they haven't gone to Michael Penix yet is insane. It doesn't make any sense, because I guess it's because they just owe so much money to Kirk Cousins, and the NFC South is still like wide open. I don't know.
It's not really Tampa's taking control of that piece, but 111 yards. 1 touchdown against 9 interceptions in 5 weeks. Like, what in the hell are we doing? Hi, Mom and Courtney.